My name is Lena Rossi. I'm 30 years old. My fingers tighten around the chilled stem of a crystal champagne flute. Not a microphone, but the effect will be the same. Shattering. 6 months ago, they buried me alive. Tonight, at their gilded tomb of an anniversary gala, I claw my way out. Sunlight sharp and merciless, cut across the marble floor of the Moretti penthouse, glinting off the chrome and glass monolith that was our living room. Outside, Manhattan sprawled like a conquered kingdom, 30 stories below. Inside, silence reigned, thick and suffocating. My mother, Isabella Moretti, stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, a silhouette carved from ice and ambition. Her reflection watched me, unblinking. Posture, Lena, her voice, honed to a razor's edge, sliced the quiet. Moretti women do not slouch. They command. I forced my spine straighter, the silk of my Valentino blouse whispering against skin already prickling under her scrutiny. Command. That was Isabella's religion. Our Park Avenue Airy wasn't a home. It was a fortress, a gleaming testament to Moretti Holdings, the real estate empire my father, Vittorio, had forged from old steel money and ruthless cunning. Every surface screamed calculated wealth. The Baccarat chandelier, the Eames chair that cost more than a sedan, the Rothko that dominated the far wall, a splash of controlled chaos. My childhood was a syllabus in perfection. Fluent French by 8, mastered Beethoven sonatas on the Steinway by 10, knew which fork to use for escargot, and which smile to deploy for which senator's wife by 12. My closet overflowed with couture, my bathroom counter gleamed with La Mer. My schedule bled from ballet to boardroom etiquette seminars to carefully curated charity galas designed for maximum photogenic impact. My younger sister, Chiara, 5 years my junior, was my shadow and my competition, wide, eager eyes soaking up my every move. Teach me, Lena, she'd beg, perched on the edge of my vanity as I applied mascara with surgical precision. Mom says I'll never have your aplomb. A backhanded compliment, Isabella's specialty. Praise for me, poison for Chiara. Divide and conquer. We weren't sisters. We were gladiators in matching designer armor, bearing the invisible scars of Isabella's relentless training. Her lieutenant was Bianca Ricci, my godmother, a hawk in Prada. Her family's pharmaceutical fortune bought her the right to police ours. She'd materialize at galas, a phantom at my elbow. Lena Cara, she'd murmur, breath smelling of expensive gin. That charming young architect you were chatting with. His father owns those modest outer borough developments, no? How eclectic of you. Every word, every glance meticulously catalogued for Isabella's nightly debrief. I performed flawlessly. Columbia, Harvard MBA, AVP title at Moretti Holdings dangled before me like a gilded carrot. I dated the sons of bankers, politicians, old money, maintained the precise weight Isabella deemed elegantly substantial. I was the perfect Moretti heir. Until I dared to want something mine. The Rossi Gallery, my vision. A sleek, brutalist space in Chelsea, dedicated to fierce, overlooked contemporary artists. Not just a gallery, a statement. Vittorio peered over his reading glasses. The proposal I'd spent months crafting lying on his obsidian desk like roadkill. A gallery, Lena. His voice was gravel scraped over ice. We build skyscrapers, we don't peddle doodles. It's not doodles, father, I countered, keeping my voice level, fighting the tremor. It's a curated platform for explosive talent. The location is prime. The projections are solid. Fine, he cut me off, already returning to his financial timesheet. I'll fund this. Experiment. Consider it an expensive lesson in knowing your place. For 3 glorious months, the Rossi Gallery thrummed. The raw concrete walls pulsed with vibrant, challenging art. Critics took notice, collectors circled. My partner, Daniel Shaw, handled logistics while I curated, schmoozed, built something real. Then, the call. Our accountant's voice was thin, reedy with panic. Ms. Rossi, the accounts. They're empty, completely drained. And the outstanding invoices to artists, framers, rent. It's over $400,000. Daniel vanished, like smoke. The investigation revealed a trail of aliases. Daniel Shaw, David Stone, Derek Shore, and a history of similar, devastating cons. The New York Post ran it. Moretti heiress duped in art scam debacle. Page 6 feasted. Society's vultures circled, whispers sharp behind diamond-encrusted hands at the Met Gala. Poor Vittorio. Isabella must be mortified. Lena always was, flighty. Their retribution was swift, surgical, and utterly merciless. The family meeting was an execution. Vittorio stood before the fireplace, his face the color of raw steak. Your negligence, he spat, each word a hammer blow, has stained this family. Did you perform any due diligence? Or were you too busy playing bohemian? Vittorio, your heart, Isabella cautioned, her hand fluttering to his arm, a pantomime of concern. Her eyes, when they turned to me, were Arctic glaciers. Lena, your father entrusted you with Moretti Capital. Your recklessness is a reflection of our judgment, a dangerous liability. Within days, my Tribeca loft, technically owned by Moretti Holdings, was repossessed. My black Amex evaporated. My Mercedes G-Wagon disappeared from the garage, replaced by a rattling, decade-old Nissan Altima Isabella termed suitable transportation for fiscal responsibility. I was exiled to a sterile guest suite in the penthouse fortress. Every family dinner became a public flogging. Every cousin's promotion at the firm was a pointed reminder of those who understand their limitations. My failure wasn't just business. It was existential. The confident heiress dissolved, replaced by a cautionary tale, a ghost haunting the gilded halls of her former life. The disappointment, trotted out to prove even Moretti steel could bend, could break. The intervention came on a Tuesday, choked with late autumn fog. I entered the formal library, all dark wood and leather-bound books no one read, to find Vittorio in his wingback throne, Isabella rigid beside him, and a stranger, a man in an off-the-rack charcoal suit, standing near the cold fireplace, unremarkable, forgettable. Sit, Lena, Vittorio commanded. His breathing sounded labored, theatrical. Your father and I have resolved your situation, Isabella began, her voice the smooth poison she used when dismissing servants. This charade of independence ends now. I've applied for 52 positions, I shot back, the number a bitter talisman, many sabotaged by your calls. We've found a solution, Isabella overrode me, her voice final. Angelo Rossi has been our family counsel for 30 years. His nephew, Silas Thorne, is seeking stability. He's graciously agreed to overlook your recent indiscretions. The stranger stepped forward. Silas Thorne. He extended a hand. I let it hang in the air, medium height, medium build. Brown hair, neatly combed but unremarkable. His suit whispered discount. His watch was functional, not flashy. He had the quiet air of an accountant. Utterly small. I laughed, a harsh, brittle sound in the oppressive room. This is absurd. I'm not marrying a stranger because of one setback. This isn't a negotiation, Isabella stated, her voice dropping to sub-zero. You will marry Silas Thorne. He has generously accepted this arrangement despite your circumstances. In return, you will receive a modest residence and an entry-level position at Moretti Holdings. Administrative support, suitable for your capabilities. And if I refuse? The defiance tasted like ash. Vittorio's jaw clenched. A vein pulsed at his temple. Then you leave this house with the clothes on your back. No trust fund, no connections, no references, nothing. Your father's condition, Isabella added softly, the threat velvet-wrapped steel, is precarious. Stress is lethal. I fled. Found Chiara in her pristine bedroom, all blush pinks and white lacquer. She sat on the edge of her bed, twisting her Cartier love bracelet. Her eyes were red-rimmed. She already knew. They've planned this for weeks, she whispered, her voice thick. It's not just punishment, Lena. It's containment. Containment? If you marry this, Silas, take the humble job, they spin it, the redemption story, the wild daughter tamed, married to some respectable nobody. Who is he? Chiara shrugged helplessly. A financial analyst at a small asset management firm, Angelo says. Steady, responsible. Mom likes that he's invisible. He won't threaten their image, but he's acceptable. 3 days later, I endured an arranged dinner with Silas Thorne at a bistro that screamed inoffensive. He arrived in a Nissan Altima identical to mine. His apartment, which he insisted on showing me afterwards, was a one-bedroom box in a rapidly gentrifying but still gritty corner of Long Island City. Functional IKEA furniture, beige walls, a small bookshelf holding a handful of popular thrillers and finance self-help books. Sterile, soulless, it smelled faintly of microwave meals and resignation. I understand this is unconventional, he said, his voice calm, neutral, watching me catalog the bleakness, but I believe we can build something functional. Functional? The word tasted sour. That's your vision for matrimony. Not love, not passion, just efficient coexistence. He shrugged, utterly unfazed by my hostility. Would you prefer platitudes? We're both here for practical reasons. What are your practical reasons? I demanded, leaning forward. Why marry a disgraced heiress? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed, a harsh, insistent sound. Excuse me, he said, standing smoothly. He stepped into a small room off the living area, a home office, and closed the door. His muffled voice drifted through the thin wood. Different, sharper, authoritative. The Luxembourg transfer needs to clear by 9 a.m. GMT. Have compliance confirm the Cayman entity filings. Thorne out. My skin prickled. That voice didn't belong in this beige box. Desperate, I reached out to Marco Santoro, my ex. 2 intense years at Harvard Business School before he took a hedge fund role in London. He'd been back in New York for 8 months, sending carefully worded texts before and after my downfall. Just checking in. Heard about the gallery. Tough break. We met at a dimly lit whiskey bar downtown, far from prying eyes. Marco looked immaculate in a Tom Ford suit, his Rolex Daytona catching the low light as he swirled an old-fashioned. This arranged marriage is medieval, Lena, he agreed smoothly after I laid out my parents' ultimatum. They can't force you into this. They've left me no options, Marco. They're weaponizing my father's health. Marco hesitated, swirled his drink. Ice clinked like tiny bells. What if there was another path? If you had a different candidate? Someone your parents already approved? Hope, treacherous and sharp, pierced my numbness. You? His expression shifted, becoming coolly assessing. Lena, I've always valued you. And Moretti connections. They're invaluable, strategic. We were good together. Perhaps this predicament is an opportunity for both of us. Valued, connections, strategic, opportunity. The calculation in his eyes was a bucket of ice water. I wasn't Lena. I was damaged Moretti goods, a potential acquisition, a bargain. I left Marco at the bar, walked 20 blocks in Louboutin that shredded my heels. Each step hammered the truth. Without the Moretti name, the fortune, the shield, I was nothing, less than nothing, a liability, a joke. The final humiliation was the wedding dress fitting. Isabella selected a column of ivory crepe, severe, unadorned. Appropriate, she declared. The seamstress pinned and tucked under her steely gaze. Silas is making a considerable sacrifice, accepting you, Isabella murmured. Her voice a venomous whisper meant only for me. Her reflection in the 3-way mirror met mine. This match, it's where you belong now. Be grateful. I saw it then. The reflection, trapped, smothered, fading into respectable insignificance. Death by 1,000 cuts of beige. My wedding day dawned with cruel cinematic perfection. Isabella orchestrated a tasteful ceremony on the penthouse terrace, scaled down from the plaza extravaganza she'd once envisioned. Discretion is paramount, she informed the wedding planner within my earshot. We're emphasizing humility and fresh starts. I moved through the morning like a sleepwalker, makeup painted over the shadows, hair sculpted into a tight, unforgiving chignon. The ivory crepe sheath hung on me, its simplicity a brand. You look suitable, Isabella assessed, clasping a single strand of modest pearls around my neck, her version of shackles. Remember to smile. Everyone understands this isn't what we planned, but appearances. Endure. Vittorio walked me down the makeshift aisle, his grip on my arm of ice. 70 guests, winnowed from 300, watched. Bianca Ricci dabbed non-existent tears. My Columbia roommate Sophie declined, posting yacht pictures from Monaco instead. The family priest's homily dripped with condescension. True strength lies in accepting God's path, even when it diverges from our proud designs. Silas waited at the makeshift altar. He looked composed. His suit was marginally better than his usual fare, but still screamed mid-management. When I reached him, he took my hand. His grip was warm, steady. Just breathe, he whispered, his calm a fleeting anchor in the surreal storm. The reception was a purgatory of veiled barbs. Marriage grounds the flighty, declared Aunt Celia, patting my cheek. Some girls simply lack business sense. Vittorio's right-hand man, Gerald, nodded sagely. Thorne seems solid. The word hung in the air, describing a dependable appliance. I noticed Silas's guests, only 4. They clustered at a corner table, not society peacocks, but observers, sharp-eyed. A striking woman in her 60s, with silver-streaked black hair and eyes like flint, met my gaze. She raised her glass in a subtle, almost imperceptible toast. It felt real, more real than anything else in the room. The gifts mocked my fall. Practical cookware, bland linens, no Cartier, no Tiffany. Isabella's centerpiece, gift. The deed to a small pre-war apartment in a still gritty part of Brooklyn, and employment contracts. Positions commensurate with your current standing, Vittorio announced. Silas in accounts receivable. You, Lena, in records management. We left in Silas's Altima, no Rolls-Royce, no Bora Bora. A weekend in a Connecticut bed-and-breathless breakfast before reporting for our indentured servitude at Moretti Holdings. The Brooklyn apartment, our nest, was a third-floor walk-up overlooking a brick wall and a perpetually shouting alley. 2 cramped bedrooms, a kitchenette smelling faintly of ancient grease, furniture chosen by Isabella for maximum soul-crushing anonymity. The master bedroom held 2 narrow single beds. For propriety, Isabella had sniffed, until you're ready. Home, Silas commented dryly, dropping our bags on the scarred hardwood floor. This isn't a home, I spat, surveying the beige wasteland. It's purgatory, with worse lighting. The next morning, reality bit. I stared at a coffee maker like it was alien tech, fumbled with a mop, realized groceries didn't magically appear. Silas watched my floundering with unnerving patience. I can show you how to make a grocery list, he offered, after finding me glaring into the empty fridge. Budgeting, meal prep. Why aren't you furious? I demanded, gesturing at the depressing room. Married to a wreck, living in this hole. I've lived in worse, he replied, his voice quiet, unreadable. And no one forced me. I agreed to this. The statement hung, heavy with unspoken weight. We settled into an awkward rhythm. Silas left early for his analyst job, returning to find me seething after another day of humiliation at Moretti Holdings. My records management role involved fetching coffee for Jennifer, my smirking supervisor, and filing documents Jennifer insisted be done her way. Alphabetical by subsidiary, then date, Lena, she'd chirp. Your father expects precision. Weekends, Silas vanished for business meetings that seemed excessive for a junior analyst. He maintained a locked door to the second bedroom, his office. Inside, I heard the low murmur of those authoritative phone calls. My suspicion grew, thorny and insistent. Why this man? Why this marriage? What arrived in those plain, nondescript packages he immediately locked away? 1 month in, Chiara visited, smuggling in good wine and genuine worry. She explored the apartment, her nose wrinkling only slightly. It's not terrible, she declared, surprising me. It has character, unlike the penthouse. It has mice, Chiara, or cockroaches, jury's still out. Silas seems decent, she ventured cautiously. Not what I expected. What did you expect? A troll? Someone desperate, or weird? He's neither. She hesitated, swirling her wine. He actually reminds me of Dad, before the coldness set in, focused, observant, quietly dangerous. That evening, Silas returned with fragrant Thai takeout from a place far beyond our supposed budget. Pad See Ew that tasted like heaven. How? I started. Life's too short for bad noodles, he deflected, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. Later, assembling a cheap bookshelf I'd insisted on buying, a tiny rebellion against Isabella's blandness. Disaster struck. I misaligned the shelves. They collapsed with a clatter. Silas stared at the wreckage, then deadpanned. I believe the technical term is a catastrophic structural integrity failure. A startled laugh burst from me, the first in months. Chiara joined in, giggling helplessly. After she left, Silas and I shared lukewarm tea and the quiet aftermath of shared absurdity. Thank you, I said, the words surprising me, for being kind to Chiara. She's trapped, he replied, breaking a fortune cookie. But she sees you clearly, values your resilience. What resilience? I scoffed, gesturing at the cramped apartment. I'm a prisoner in an arranged marriage, surrounded by my mother's cast-off furniture. Silas studied me, his gaze suddenly intense, stripping away the layers of designer armor I no longer wore. The resilience to stand when everything you thought defined you is ripped away. Most people break. Something shifted. Not love, not desire, but a crack in the ice, a flicker of recognition. 6 months into our strange, chaste cohabitation, I woke to darkness. Silas's bed was empty, not unusual. His nocturnal work calls were frequent. But tonight, raw from a day where Jennifer had accidentally spilled coffee on my only decent blouse, fatigue overrode caution. I followed the low murmur to his office door, usually locked. Tonight, the knob turned silently under my hand. The room beyond was a different universe. Gone was the cramped apartment. 3 massive monitors glowed, displaying complex shifting financial data streams, global market maps, encrypted chat windows. A Bloomberg terminal hummed in the corner, a machine costing more than my annual trust fund used to be. The bookshelf held dense tomes on quantum economics, geopolitical strategy, advanced cryptography, and Silas, standing before the glowing screens, headset on, manipulating data with swift, confident gestures. Dressed not in pajamas, but in a crisp, obviously bespoke white shirt and tailored trousers. The Hong Kong acquisition closes at 0400 EST. Move the assets through Zurich. Legal has the shell documentation prepped for my final authorization. Handle the press release internally. Standard strategic realignment boilerplate. He turned, saw me frozen in the doorway. For a long, suspended moment, silence crackled. Me in faded silk pajamas. Him radiating controlled power in the glow of his command center. He smoothly ended the call. Lena? You're not a junior financial analyst, I stated, my voice flat. Shock was a cold river in my veins. No, he agreed, removing the headset. I'm not. Silas gestured to the lone chair opposite his imposing desk. I sat, my legs trembling. He opened a drawer, not the cheap IKEA one in the living room, but a sleek integrated compartment in his high-tech desk. He pulled out a copy of The Economist, dated 18 months prior, placed it before me. Open it, page 37, the feature, The Ghost Billionaire, Atlas Capital's Elusive Mastermind. The article detailed Atlas Capital, a multi-billion-dollar private equity behemoth, known for ruthless efficiency and uncanny market foresight. Its CEO, notorious for avoiding cameras and public appearances, had built the firm from nothing into a global powerhouse in under a decade. Known only by the initials ST, my blood turned to ice. ST, I whispered. Silas Thorne, founder and CEO of Atlas Capital, he confirmed. His voice was calm, but his eyes held mine with unnerving intensity. Current net worth fluctuates, let's say comfortably north of $5 billion. The world tilted. Fragments of news I'd dismissed, rumors of the reclusive tycoon, theories about his identity slammed together. The sheer, staggering scale of the deception was breathtaking. Why? The words scraped my throat raw. I gestured wildly at the opulent command center hidden within our shabby apartment, then at the door leading to the depressing living room. Why live like this? Why marry me? Was I corporate espionage? Getting intel on Moretti Holdings? Initially, he admitted, leaning back in his chair, the leather sighing. When Angelo Rossi approached me about this arrangement, I saw an opportunity to observe the Moretti ecosystem firsthand, before finalizing certain transactions involving their debt structure. Fury, white-hot and blinding, surged. So I was due diligence? A human Trojan horse? Initially, he repeated, holding up a hand as I started to rise. But something shifted, Lena. I saw someone whose entire identity, her sense of self-worth, was built on external validation, family name, social standing, material success. When that was ripped away, I watched you struggle, not just with the shame, but with the terrifying void beneath it. Trying to find you? It was compelling. My suffering was compelling. Your resilience was, he corrected sharply. And I saw something else, something your family, blinded by their own narrative, missed completely. Your gallery failure wasn't incompetence, Lena. It was sabotage. The room seemed to contract. What? Silas tapped a key. Documents flashed onto the central monitor. Banking records, emails, background checks. Daniel Shaw, real name, Darren Slate. 3 previous aliases. Same MO target ambitious ventures connected to wealthy families. Inflate costs, siphon funds, vanish. He zoomed in on a transaction log. See this? A substantial charitable donation from the Isabella Moretti Foundation to a shell nonprofit. Linked to Slate. Made 2 weeks before he miraculously appeared, perfectly credentialed, eager to partner with the Moretti heiress. My blood ran cold. That's circumstantial. Perhaps, he conceded. But this isn't. He brought up internal Moretti Holdings emails. Vittorio to Gerald. Ensure the due diligence on Shaw is expedited. Isabella requires resolution on Lena's distraction. Isabella to Gerald. Timing is critical. The collapse must be public, humiliating, before the Chelsea Art Walk. The screens blurred. 6 months of crushing shame, self-loathing, the bedrock belief in my own failure, crumbled, replaced by a tectonic shift of rage and betrayal so profound it stole my breath. Your mother didn't just create the conditions for your failure, Lena, Silas said, his voice low and intense. She orchestrated it. She ensured you'd fall spectacularly, then positioned herself and your father as the saviors, the wise protectors picking up the pieces. Control. Absolute control. I pressed my palms against my temples, the room spinning. How long have you known? Suspected before I met you. Confirmed it 3 months ago. Why not tell me? And the question was a raw wound. Silas leaned forward, his usual mask of calm slipping, revealing a startling vulnerability. Because you needed to find your own strength first, Lena. Knowledge without the power to act on it. It's just another kind of poison. It deepens the wound. You needed to know you could survive this gilded cage, even if it was fake. That your strength wasn't tied to their name or money. He paused, his gaze holding mine. And now, what do you want to do with this truth? The question hung, vast and terrifying. The first time in my life anyone had genuinely asked me what I wanted. The answer erupted from a place deeper than rage, deeper than pain, a primal need. Justice, I hissed, the word tasting like iron. I want justice, and I want my life back. Not the gilded puppet show they designed. Something real, something mine. Silas nodded slowly. A predator's smile touched his lips, devoid of humor, full of purpose. I can help you achieve that. If you let me. Why? I searched his face, the face of the stranger I'd married, the hidden king. What do you get? His gaze didn't waver. A partner, someone who sees me, not Atlas, not the billions, just Silas, someone who understands both worlds, the gilded cage and the real one, and chooses reality, someone with fire, he paused, someone who doesn't break. That sounds suspiciously like a real marriage proposal. Maybe it is, he suggested, the uncertainty in his voice the most human thing I'd ever heard from him. We could start over, no arrangements, no deceptions, just honesty. See where it leads. That night, we pushed the twin beds together for the first time, not for sex, for survival, for conspiracy. Facing each other in the darkness, the hum of his hidden servers a low thrum beneath us, we dismantled our false selves. Silas spoke of growing up in a Pittsburgh steel town, raised by a single mother who scrubbed floors, scholarships that barely covered MIT, the algorithmic trading model he'd coded in his dorm room that became Atlas's beating heart, the deliberate choice for anonymity, the disgust at the sycophancy wealth attracted. I wanted to see the world as it is, he murmured, not as people show it to a billionaire. I shared the suffocation of conditional love, the constant performance, the crushing weight of expectation, and the fierce buried passion for art, not as investment, but as raw, unfiltered human expression. I never wanted their skyscrapers, I confessed. The truth a release. I wanted to build something beautiful, something that mattered, something that was me. You still can, Silas said. His hand found mine in the dark. A pact. And I'll help you burn the bastards who tried to stop you. Dawn bled into the apartment. The world hadn't changed, but everything had. Silas transformed our cramped living room into a war room. Whiteboards appeared, covered in timelines. Names: Vittorio, Isabella, Gerald, Bianca, Darren Slate. Financial flows and connections drawn in red marker like arteries of corruption. Laptops hummed. Secure satellite phones blinked. Grace Chen, the silver-haired woman from our wedding, arrived. Silas introduced her as Atlas Capital's chief strategist and his mentor. Her eyes, sharp as obsidian, missed nothing. Your gallery's business model was fundamentally sound, Lena, she stated, reviewing my original projections on a tablet. Your artist selection showed prescience. Several you championed have since exploded. With proper operational security and capital, you'd be a major player by now. Professional validation, objective and undeniable, staunched a wound I thought would bleed forever. Silas became my tutor. He walked me through complex financial forensics, dark web investigations, corporate shell games. I absorbed it hungrily, the fire of vengeance fueling my focus. He showed me how Darren Slate operated, the digital footprints he left, the pressure points in his network of aliases and offshore accounts. You have sharp instincts, Silas observed, after I pinpointed a flaw in a dummy acquisition proposal Grace devised. You just needed the tools and the intelligence, gaps easily filled. Grace assigned tasks, analyzing Slate's known transaction patterns, cross-referencing Isabella's foundation donations with shell company formations, dissecting Gerald's communications for coded language. Each success rebuilt a fragment of my shattered confidence. Our investigation zeroed in on Gerald Rossi, Vittorio's consigliere. Gerald's been the Moretti cleaner for decades, Grace explained, displaying a complex web of connections. Anything messy, Gerald handles. Vittorio maintains plausible deniability. Silas's team, operating in the digital shadows, traced payments from Isabella's foundation through intricate layers of offshore entities, directly to accounts controlled by Slate. Gerald was the conduit, the facilitator. He identified Slate, Silas confirmed, showing the money trail, vetted him inadequately on purpose, and ensured he passed Moretti Holdings' superficial checks. They manufactured your failure. The why crystallized. Control, Grace stated flatly. Your gallery was succeeding, building your own network, your own reputation, separate from Moretti. For Isabella, whose identity is built on controlling the family narrative and assets, that was an existential threat. They needed you dependent, broken, redeemed only on their terms, the humble marriage, the menial job. Proof that straying from the Moretti path leads to ruin. Humiliation as a control mechanism, Silas added, his voice cold. They ensured you'd internalize the failure, doubt your every instinct, so deeply that their solution felt like salvation, not imprisonment. The perfect stage presented itself via a terse email from Isabella's assistant. Mr. and Mrs. Moretti request your presence at their 35th anniversary gala. The Pierre Hotel, black tie, 7 p.m. sharp. I looked at Silas. A slow, predatory smile spread across my face. Showtime. Silas moved with the precision of a general deploying assets. Discreet invitations went to key Atlas board members, influential financial journalists hungry for a scoop, and a select few art world figures known for integrity. James, Atlas's head of security, another guest from our wedding, infiltrated the Pierre days before, securing the AV systems, planting discreet backup cameras and microphones, ensuring no external override was possible. The evidence, banking records, emails, Slate's aliases, Gerald's instructions, was compiled into a sleek, devastating digital presentation. Meanwhile, Grace drilled me. We staged mock confrontations in the Brooklyn apartment. They'll attack emotionally first, Grace warned, playing Isabella with chilling accuracy. Paint you as hysterical, ungrateful, delusional. They'll interrupt, invoke Vittorio's health, weaponize the audience's sympathy. You must be ice. Facts are your sword. Composure is your shield. Anticipate. Counter. James taught me tactical awareness. Watch Isabella's hands. She'll touch Vittorio's arm when she wants him to clutch his chest. Gerald will try to physically approach you, create a distraction. Bianca will lead the whispering campaign. Identify their moves before they make them. Have your counter moves ready. While strategy consumed us, a personal transformation unfolded. Silas offered his black card. Buy whatever makes you feel invincible. I didn't return to Bergdorf's. I went downtown to a small, fiercely independent atelier run by Eva Morales, a brilliant, unapologetically bold designer I'd championed before my fall. One of the few who hadn't shunned me. Lena, Eva embraced me, tears in her eyes. Dios mío, I tried calling, emailing. Your mother's assistant always said you were unavailable for social engagements. Another layer of isolation revealed. Eva created a masterpiece, not ivory crepe, but liquid onyx, a gown that clung and flowed like shadow-given form. Asymmetrical, with a single razor-sharp shoulder strap and a slit revealing a flash of leg. It wasn't pretty, it was power. Armor. This isn't just a dress, Carita, Eva murmured during the final fitting, her eyes gleaming. This is a declaration of war. Silas suggested I reach out to Chiara. She's your pressure valve inside. She needs to be ready. She's loyal to them. Is she? Silas countered. She visits your old gallery space every month, like a pilgrimage. I met Chiara at a noisy, anonymous diner in Queens. She arrived looking strained beneath impeccable makeup. Mom's a nightmare, she confessed, stirring her coffee endlessly. Since you left, all her focus is on me, my clothes, my friends, who I date. It's suffocating. She looked at me, really looked. You seem different, less broken. Chiara, the gallery. It wasn't my fault. I took a breath. Mom and Dad, they set me up. Chiara didn't look surprised. Her face hardened. I know, or I suspected. I overheard Gerald and Dad arguing about final payment to Slate. Then I found pictures, different names, in Mom's foundation files when I was organizing the Met benefit. Tears welled. By the time I pieced it together, you were married, gone. Mom screens my calls. I couldn't warn you. Relief warred with fury. We strategized. Kiara wouldn't actively participate. The risk to her was too high. Her role, neutral observer, positioned near the front, watching, remembering, a silent witness to the truth. The night before the gala, Silas and I reviewed the plan in our war room. Every piece of evidence loaded, every contingency mapped. James confirmed the AV was locked down. Grace ran final comms checks. "Are you sure?" Silas asked, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. "Once we start this, there's no undo. Your family, it might be scorched earth." I looked at the whiteboard, at the faces of my betrayers. I thought of the gilded cage, the crushing shame, the deliberate destruction of everything I'd tried to build. "What family?" The words were cold, final. They forfeited that title. I want truth, even if it means standing alone. Silas nodded, then he stepped closer, took my face in his hands. His eyes, usually so guarded, held a fierce intensity. "Whatever happens tomorrow, Lena Rossi, know this. This marriage began as a chess move. It became the most real thing in my life. You terrify me. And I've never admired anyone more." In the charged silence, the truth resonated. My parents' attempt to crush me had thrown me into the path of the one man who saw the fire they tried to extinguish. The humble husband chosen to diminish me was the king who would help me burn their kingdom down. "Tomorrow," I whispered, touching his cheek, "we end their story. And begin ours." The grand ballroom of the Pierre Hotel glittered like a frozen diamond. White orchids dripped from towering arrangements. Crystal chandeliers refracted light into blinding shards. Giant screens displayed curated photographs of Vittorio and Isabella, the perfect power couple, flawless and untouchable. The air hummed with expensive perfume, murmured platitudes, and the low thrum of exclusive privilege. Silas and I arrived precisely 15 minutes late, not in the Altima, but in his previously hidden Rolls-Royce Phantom, its silent arrival a statement in itself. As we entered, my onyx gown drew gasps and shocked stares. A slash of darkness amidst a sea of safe metallics and pastels. Silas, no longer hiding, wore a Tom Ford tuxedo that fit like a second skin, radiating lethal elegance. The air crackled as we moved through the crowd. Isabella spotted us instantly. Her frozen smile faltered, a hairline crack in her porcelain mask. She advanced, Vittorio in tow, his face already flushed above his starched collar. "Lena?" Silas Isabella's greeting was arctic. "How bold you look." Her eyes raked over my dress, radiating disapproval. "Congratulations on 35 years, Silas replied smoothly, handing her an envelope. "We've made a donation to the Arts for Justice initiative in your honor, a charity known for exposing financial corruption." The amount, visible through the window, was obscenely large. Isabella's eyebrows shot up. "How generous. Silas, your analysis position must be, unexpectedly, lucrative." "I found my strengths are better utilized elsewhere," he deflected, his voice calm, dangerous. Vittorio's eyes narrowed, finally registering the quality of Silas's watch, the cut of his suit, the unnerving stillness of his confidence. "Moretti Holdings pays junior staff remarkably well these days." "Actually, Vittorio," Silas said, using his first name like a weapon, "I've secured alternative employment, far more demanding." Before Vittorio could react, Isabella intervened, her voice sharp. "Do circulate, darlings. So many are eager to see how you're settling in." As they turned away, Silas leaned close. "Incoming. Bianca, 3 o'clock. Brace." Bianca Ricci materialized, her diamond collar a glittering chokehold. "Lena, Cara, how daring of you." And Silas, almost unrecognizable. "Success becomes you?" The barb was aimed, poisoned. "Actually, Bianca," I replied, my voice cool and steady. "Silas has been teaching me the difference between authentic success and its carefully staged facsimile. It's been illuminating." We navigated the room. Silas introduced me to colleagues, Atlas board members, powerful CEOs, respected journalists. The reactions shifted. Condescension turned to confusion, then dawning respect as these titans treated me with deference. "Lena has an uncanny eye for undervalued potential," Silas told the CEO of a global investment bank. "Her insights recently shaped a highly profitable acquisition for us." The banker's eyes widened slightly. Across the room, I saw him, Darren Slate, my Judas, flawlessly groomed, chatting animatedly with Isabella. His presence, brazenly orchestrated, was the final confirmation. I walked towards them, my heels clicking on the marble like a countdown. Darren, I said, my voice cutting through their conversation like glass. What an unexpected honor. He flinched, unprepared for my directness, my composure. Lena, I heard you'd stepped back from the art world, temporarily. I've been deeply immersed in forensic accounting, actually, I replied, holding his gaze until he looked away. Fascinating patterns emerge when you follow the money, especially through shell companies and aliases. Rachel Carter, Renee Campbell, Derek Shore. Ring any bells? Slate paled. Isabella's smile froze solid. Darren was just telling me about his exciting new venture, Isabella interjected, her voice brittle. Such innovation. I'm sure he has extensive experience with new ventures, I agreed, my smile cold. Though background checks do complicate rebranding, don't they? I left them visibly shaken, rejoining Silas as James gave a subtle nod. Systems live. Ready. Kiara found us moments later, elegant in emerald green, her eyes wide but steady. They're sticking to the schedule. Father's toast is next, then Mother's performance. Perfect, Silas murmured. Time to raise the curtain. Isabella stormed the stage, a tempest in ice-blue silk. This is insanity, her voice, usually a controlled weapon, cracked with raw panic. Lena has been unwell, influenced. Silas, what have you? This, I cut across her, my amplified voice, a whip crack silencing her sputter, is evidence. I gestured to the screens, now displaying the damning email chain. Isabella to Gerald. Ensure Slate's background check anomalies are overlooked. Lena requires a humbling lesson. Vittorio's terse reply. Make it clean, public. The ballroom erupted. A collective gasp, sharp as shattered crystal. Bianca Ricci dropped her glass. Gerald Rossi, halfway to the stage, froze as James materialized beside him. A silent, immovable wall. Darren Slate tried to bolt for an exit, only to find another of Silas's discreet security operatives blocking his path. Your gallery wasn't my failure, Mother, I stated, my voice colder than the Arctic air conditioning. It was your meticulously orchestrated takedown, a lesson in control. Humiliation as a weapon. Vittorio surged to his feet, clutching his chest with theatrical fervor. My heart. You're killing me, you ungrateful. Your cardiologists, Dr. Evans and Dr. Cho, Silas announced calmly, stepping forward beside me, his voice effortlessly filling the stunned silence without a microphone, are both here tonight, Vittorio. Atlas Capital retains them for executive health. They assure me you are physically capable of facing the consequences of your actions, though perhaps not the social ones. The screens shifted again. This time, they displayed my original gallery business plan side by side with independent valuations from 3 major art investment firms, all obtained by Grace. Their assessments glowed on the screen. Rossi Gallery model, innovative, viable, high growth potential, undercapitalized, and sabotaged. I stand here, I said, reclaiming the narrative, my gaze sweeping over the sea of shocked, fascinated, and suddenly calculating faces. The vultures sensing a shift in the carcass of Moretti prestige. Not for revenge, but for truth. My name is Lena Rossi. I am not the Moretti disappointment. I am the woman they tried to break, and I am just getting started. The final slide bloomed, the sleek, powerful logo of Atlas Capital beneath it, in bold letters, Silas Thorne, founder and CEO. The whispered name became a roar. Atlas, the ghost billionaire? He married the disgraced Moretti girl? The social calculus in the room flipped violently. The nobody husband was a king. The failure heiress was his chosen queen. Standing defiantly on the ashes of her family's manipulation, Isabella swayed, her face bone white, the perfect mask finally shattered, revealing the furious, terrified woman beneath. Vittorio sank back into his chair, not clutching his chest now, but staring at Silas with dawning, horrified comprehension. They hadn't married Lena off to a pawn. They'd delivered her to a kingmaker. Chiara stepped forward from the crowd, not onto the stage, but into the space directly in front of it. She turned, facing our parents, then deliberately turned her back on them, looking up at me. Her silent alignment, witnessed by everyone, was the final, brutal nail in the Moretti coffin of control. Security, hired by the Pierre but now subtly directed by James, began discreetly escorting a spluttering Darren Slate and a gray-faced Gerald Rossi from the ballroom. The financial journalists Silas had invited were already furiously typing, their eyes alight with the scoop of the decade. The art world figures were murmuring, looking at me with new, appraising respect. Isabella found her voice, a ragged shriek devoid of its usual icy control. You've destroyed us. Your own family. I leaned into the microphone one last time, my voice quiet but carrying absolute finality. No, Mother. You did that when you decided control was more important than love, when you chose to break your daughter rather than see her fly. I looked down at Silas. He met my gaze, a flicker of fierce pride in his eyes. We're leaving. We turned our backs on the wreckage of the Moretti anniversary, on the gasps, the whispers, the stunned silence. We walked out of the grand ballroom, not as the humble daughter and the nobody husband, but as Lena Rossi and Silas Thorne, partners, architects of our own future. The heavy doors swung shut behind us, muffling the chaos we'd unleashed. 1 year later, the chill of Manhattan autumn felt different. Crisp, clean, promising, not suffocating. The Rossi Atlas Gallery pulsed with life in Tribeca, not a replacement, but a phoenix. Raw concrete walls now showcased breathtaking, challenging art under intelligent lighting. The opening night crowd was a vibrant mix. Serious collectors, edgy critics, artists Silas had quietly funded for years, and genuine friends who'd weathered the storm. No Morettis, no Bianca Ricci. Chiara, radiant in a jumpsuit she'd designed herself for her fledgling sustainable architecture firm, handed me a champagne flute. Still feels surreal, she murmured, nodding towards a stunning, brutalist sculpture dominating the center of the space. Like walking out of a nightmare into this. This was freedom. Hard won. The fallout had been nuclear. Vittorio, facing regulatory probes spurred by the exposed dealings with Slate and Gerald, had been forced into early retirement by the Moretti Holdings Board. Isabella's social empire lay in ruins. Her foundation was under investigation, her name synonymous with toxic control. They lived in self-imposed exile in their Connecticut estate. Their attempts at reconciliation met with my cold, unyielding boundary. Accountability first. Then, maybe, conversation. Silas materialized beside me, slipping an arm around my waist. He wore his power effortlessly now, the sharp suit a natural extension, not a disguise. But the warmth in his eyes when he looked at me was entirely real. The Times Review is in, he murmured, handing me his phone. Calls it a triumphant reclamation, a gallery that pulses with the fierce, uncompromising vision of its founder. A lump formed in my throat, not just for the praise, but for the vindication. The narrative was finally mine. Our marriage, born in deception and desperation, had forged something unbreakable. We'd pushed the twin beds together that night after the gala, and never looked back. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was a partnership built on brutal honesty, mutual respect, and the shared thrill of building something real. Silas saw the steel beneath my society polish. I saw the man beneath the ghost billionaire legend, the boy from Pittsburgh, who still valued authenticity over adoration. A discreet chime sounded. James, head of our personal security now, a necessity, not paranoia, approached. Mr. and Mrs. Moretti, he said quietly. At the door, uninvited. I exchanged a glance with Silas. He raised an eyebrow. Your call. I took a deep breath. Let them in, James, but keep them away from the artists and the press. They stood near the entrance, diminished figures amidst the vibrant crowd. Isabella looked older, her usual armor replaced by something brittle. Vittorio seemed shrunken. They held themselves stiffly, out of place. Isabella approached me later, as Silas chatted with a prominent curator. Her eyes flickered over the gallery, the confident woman I'd become, Silas's protective presence. It's successful, she conceded, the word seeming to cost her. It is, I agreed, my voice neutral. She hesitated, then spoke, the words clearly rehearsed, devoid of her usual venom but lacking true warmth. We regret the misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. The word was a bandage on a gaping wound. I met her gaze, the gaze that had judged and controlled me for a lifetime. There was no forgiveness there yet, perhaps never would be. But there was something else. A flicker of dawning, terrible realization. She saw what her control had cost her. Not just a daughter, but any claim on the formidable woman standing before her. Thank you for coming, Mother, I said, the title feeling formal, distant. Enjoy the art. I turned and walked back towards Silas, towards the light, the energy, the future we were building, towards the unbroken canvas of my own life. The revenge was complete. The silence left in its wake wasn't hollow. It was filled with the vibrant, challenging, beautifully uncertain sound of freedom.